So, how do you feel about parking on campus?
Honestly, I feel like it could be a lot better. I feel like even though compared to a lot of other CSU campuses, we don't pay as much. However, like I live in student housing and I live in Anacapa, and I always end up having to park all the way out in the back of Santa Rosa. And sometimes it's a real bear when it's late at night or when it's, raining or whatever. I feel like the people in Santa Cruz and Anacapa villages have a harder time finding parking compared to those in Santa Rosa.
How many times have you driven into your lot of choice and found a parking spot? Is that a common occurrence for you?
I'd say once a week and it's when I arrive on Sundays, I come a little bit early just so that I get a spot. But usually when I get into the Anacapa lot, there's already people with their hazards on waiting for spots like vultures. So it's kind of crazy.
How long would you say that you spend driving around looking for a parking spot?
At least 30 minutes, but it'll be 15 if I can park on the outskirts of campus, but then it takes me another 20 minutes to get to classes.
How long, usually on a daily basis, does it take you to find a parking spot in the morning?
Today it took me 10 minutes. I always try to park in the lot right here. Never works, so yeah.
In the morning, I usually arrive at around 8 a.m. It really just varies. This semester, so far, I've had kind of a hard time finding parking in the morning.
How long generally does it take you, would you say, to find a parking spot in the morning?
I do come here pretty early, so I do quote unquote get priority parking because I get to select where I want to park. But when I am late, it usually takes me 15 minutes to just drive around the parking spot and try to find a parking area, especially even before the pandemic. Oh my god, that was probably the worst. I would drive 20, probably 30 minutes sometimes, depending on what time I got on campus, just trying to find a spot. And I would just have to watch everyone, oh, is this car leaving, is this car leaving? And there were so many times where I was late to class because I couldn't find a parking spot.
I would say definitely around 15 minutes, depending where I look. I usually tend to be late to class, or issues rise up where I have to come here late, and so it's very difficult because the only spots available are farther away. So yes, I would say 15 minutes.
Yeah, and then when you get to the lot that you want to park in, how often do you find a spot in that lot that is close to your class?
Almost never. Most of my classes are a little bit in between campus, so it's definitely a long walk for my classes.
Are you aware of the carpool parking pass, and are you able to use it? Is that an accessible thing for you to do?
Actually, my sister goes here too, so I already, I guess, carpool with her, but we have one of the fuel efficient spots, so we use that and try to get a little bit closer. But I mean, I had the carpool pass 2 years ago, and it definitely helped, but I feel like people don't know about the high efficiency in the carpool spaces. I think they should advertise that more.
I personally don't feel comfortable with carpooling because of COVID right now, and I also don't have the ability. I don't have anybody to be taking with me, so it's not really an option.
So there's carpool parking spots. Have you ever looked into it?
I haven't looked into it, but I've thought about looking into it because those spaces are always open.
I have. I actually got one my first year with a nursing classmate, but because of COVID and everything that happened, we didn't think we'd be on campus as much this semester, which we weren't, and so we didn't get it this semester. However, sometimes I wish we did, just so I could use up those parking spots.
I did think about it, but unfortunately I didn't live around anyone that I knew that I could carpool with. And before, I used to drop off my little sister at her elementary school, and having to coordinate schedules with someone else was very difficult.
I've definitely seen, because I've seen that they're vacant a lot of the times, and they're the ones that are closer to campus, so I've definitely looked into it. But my roommates that also go to CI tend to not have the same schedule as me, so I don't really have somebody to come with me during those times, especially because I get here early.
Are there any ways that you think parking could be improved on this campus?
It definitely can be improved by just more spots closer to classes. I feel like that would solve some of the major issues that I and a lot of other students have.
Yeah, if they could maybe do something about the carpool, making it more available to those who don't have a carpool pass.
I do feel that maybe even the scheduling of classes, a lot of the times are around the same time, and so a lot of the students are here, and so therefore they take up more parking spaces. And so I feel like if they were a little bit more structured in that way, they'd be able to kind of coordinate the available spots for parking.
I feel like it might be hard, but opening up more parking spots, or even like on days when they know that it's like full, or like I know there's construction and we can go around, but I feel like they should still like have the parking lots that are closer to our classes more accessible to us.
We know we need more parking. In fact, just prior to the pandemic, we were in the process of an expansion, starting up an expansion in the A3 parking lot. And so you can see here one of the diagrams, the black area here, this is the existing paved portion of the A3 parking lot. And then this little section here, this is the existing gravel portion of the parking lot. But had the pandemic not happened, we would have been in construction at this point of this new 1,225 additional parking spaces out in the A3 parking lot. But at the time, the engineers estimated our cost, just a surface lot alone, by the time you factor in design and some other things, would probably be around $8 million just for 1,200 additional surface parking stalls. It is hard to get us going in the direction of these alternative modes of transportation. And because it is still one of our main goals to reduce the number of single vehicle occupancy trips to the campus, the carpool program is important to us. A significant portion of parking fees currently go to support the alternative transportation programs, which is important. We have to support those programs. We will not be able to sustain enough parking for everyone without also encouraging alternative modes, encouraging the transit systems, encouraging carpool, right, as we continue to move forward. So as of right now, no, we're not planning to reduce the number of carpool stalls. Quite frankly, once we get back to pre-pandemic numbers, those lots will be full. But for us, it's difficult because as we get more people using the alternative modes, that also reduces the number of people paying for parking permits, which then reduces our revenue and ability to pay for the alternative modes of transportation. And in reality, parking permit sales is probably not where that funding should be coming from, because parking permit sales should be funding the maintenance and construction of parking lots and things needed for our parking infrastructure, which we haven't been able to do because we spend so much on transit. And so, it's just unfortunate that the way that legally parking, not just here, but on all 23 CSUs is set up. We are an auxiliary organization, which means we don't receive any funding. Everything we do comes from parking permit revenue. We had plans to bring in micro-mobility, possibly like bike share programs, or we've even explored like the Bird type electric scooters in the past. And we were looking at ways to improve all of those locations. And like I said, that there were plans to move forward with paving that gravel lot, and we still intend to get to that point. It's just going to be delayed a few years until we can recover economically from some of the losses over the past year. While I would love to have a parking structure on campus because it makes things easier in a lot of ways for parking enforcement to manage, unfortunately, based on our location and where we are, it's not quite possible to build a parking structure out here. Parking is outside of the levee. So if you know where the A3 parking lot is, it's actually out in a floodplain. And because of where it is, we're not allowed to build large structures out there. In addition to that, it's pretty cost prohibitive. Just a surface parking lot estimated at about $8 million after engineering costs for us to build. Conservatively, a parking structure estimates at about 3 times that cost. And so the cost per parking stall for us to build is actually much higher to build a structure than it is to build a surface lot. I encourage students to make their voices heard, right? We make decisions based on what we think is best for the university, taking into account student voice, right? And we work very closely with our folks at this on student government, as well as we have a transportation committee on campus that helps inform our department on decisions moving forward. And there are actually 3 student representatives on that transportation committee. And so we're doing everything we can to try to make it better with what we've got. And I just hope that everyone bears with us a little bit here. Just the last 2 years have been very difficult for auxiliaries. That's why I want everyone back, right? I need everyone to come back so that we can start doing what we need to do to make things better. So that's where we are.